All right, folks, looks like we are filling up here pretty quickly. It's always good to see. I'm going to go over some housekeeping items before we begin. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for the Start Omaha Work Week. Today, we are featuring AJ from Big Frog Custom T-shirts and more. Our quick housekeeping items. We do ask that all questions asked in the Q&A feature, please be respectful if you want to leave a comment in the chat. And if you would like to watch this program again, the recording will be posted on our Do Space YouTube page later next week. As a reminder, after each program, make sure you head to Beanstack, our community engagement platform. There you can mark that you attended this webinar, and throughout the week, that is going to enter you into some prizes. We are giving away 3 gift cards to local small businesses and 1 headshot session. And you can do this at dospace.beanstack.org. And you should see that link in the chat. Looks like we are ready to begin. We're going to start on time here at 7 o'clock. For those of you that are just joining us, I'd like to introduce AJ from Big Frog Custom T-shirts. This has been in Omaha now for over 10 years, specializing in garment customization. Big Frog offers various ways to take a blank garment and really make it your own. From one-off fun T-shirts and sentimental gifts shirts to skilled laborer uniforms and branded corporate apparel, Big Frog Custom T-shirts will almost certainly have or find what you're looking for. AJ brings over 20 years of experience as a graphic designer and 10 years in marketing to the table. He is both passionate and creative, and his favorite thing about owning/operating Big Frog Custom T-shirts is working with small businesses at schools. He said, I like helping small business owners like myself, and making shirts for kids is just a lot of fun. Well, I love that, and I can tell you, I love all of my custom T-shirts from school, so I'm glad there are people out there that love doing that work. AJ, I'm going to hand it over to you, and we are ready to begin.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for coming in. This is branding and marketing. It's more than just a logo. Start off real quick with kind of talking about what is branding. You know, when it comes to branding, some business owners, especially smaller entrepreneurs, believe that branding starts and ends at putting a logo on something. The truth is the logo is only the first component of branding. Through this webinar, we'll kind of explore some of the other aspects of branding and how it impacts and is influenced by your marketing. Now, you might be wondering who I am. After that awesome introduction, you're probably not, because thank you so much. That was a great introduction. But yeah, this is me. I am AJ Obando. I'm the owner and operator of Big Frog Custom T-shirts here in Omaha. A little quick bit of housekeeping on my end. Let me tell you a little bit about Big Frog Custom T-shirts. Like you said, we're locally owned. We are locally operated. We've been in business at the same location for over 10 years. And I love supporting small businesses. I love working with smaller businesses because it's a chance to get in on the ground floor and help small businesses really put their best foot forward. And, you know, any other time of the year that would be important, but now through the pandemic, it's even more important. I'm very proud of the fact that we have 154 5-star reviews on Google. We really take pride in what we do and our customer service. So let's just jump right into it. This is why you guys are here. So let's get on. So what is a brand? Let's answer this once and for all. I'm sure a lot of people will tell you a lot of different things as to what a brand is. Well, a brand is, to put it simply, an organization, a product, or a service. So what are some brands you guys can think of? You know, feel free to post some in the chat, but I've got a few that I kind of like to talk about on the regular coming up. So some of my favorite examples of brands include Coke, Pepsi, McDonald's. Apparently I was hungry when I was making this list because we've got Burger King as well. Ford, Chevy, of course, the almighty Google, Amazon. Those are some very big brands. But then, of course, there's also some smaller brands such as Do Space and Big Frog Custom T-shirts. So you might be asking, well, is that it? That was a pretty short presentation. That's not what I signed up for. So let's move on. That's absolutely not it, because we are just getting started. So let me give you guys a quote that talks about what brands are. A brand is literally what people say about your business or your product or your service when you are not in the room. Now, you guys may or may not know who this gentleman is, a young man by the name of Jeff Bezos. He's kind of sort of the CEO of Amazon and a pretty wealthy individual. So he kind of has a pretty good idea of what's going on when it comes to branding. Um, so, what is the bees? Because, he and I are that close. What is the bees talking about? Well, the way I look at it, 25% of a brand comes from what you as a business tell people you are. Your message that you put out into the world, that's really about 25% of what your brand is. So you might be asking, what's the rest of it? Well, the rest of it, of what 75% of what a brand is, comes from what people, that is your friends, your customers, and their friends and family, think and feel about what it is that you as a business are or stand for or do. So does that mean you're doomed to only control 25% of your brand? No, in a word, simply. So what can we do to put your brand in the driver's seat? So like I said, your brand is a combination of what you put out there into the world and what people see, think, and think about you and your business. And it all starts with your logo, but it doesn't end there. Like I said, this is branding. It's more than just a logo. But let's talk about logos for a quick second, because when it comes to branding, that's the first thing everybody thinks of. And to be quite honest with you, it's kind of sort of like like a virtual handshake. Sometimes, most of the time nowadays, especially with socially distant environments, your logo is going to be the first interaction that a person is going to have with your business, product, or service. So, what are some of the different logos that are out there? I like to break it down into three types of logos. The first is going to be a logo type. These are going to be logos that use only letters to spell out the name of the business, product, or service. Oftentimes, these use stylized fonts and colors to really make them unique and identifiable. The next is going to be a logo mark. These are logos that are made up entirely of an image or graphic. And sometimes these symbols can be used alone to represent the business, product, or service. And the third, as you might guess, is a combination, basically a logo type along with a logo mark, working together to create the complete logo package. Here's some examples of some of the logo types. Let's see if anybody can recognize most of these brands. There's Coca-Cola, one of my favorites. Now there's two on here that I would say kind of sort of start getting into the logo mark just a little bit, and that would be Skype and YouTube. The only reason I point those out is because, yes, they are mostly letters, but they do have some graphic elements to them. The blue outline of the word Skype, the red TV tube style shape around the word tube in YouTube. But the rest of these, Google, NASA, eBay, they're all great examples of logo types. Now let's take a look at some logo marks. Most people, the Apple logo is pretty ubiquitous. Everybody knows Apple. Everybody knows Nike, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. All of the social media platforms are fantastic at creating great logo marks that are instantly identifiable. And then, of course, there's combinations. Burger King that I had up there earlier, MasterCard. Amazon itself has a combination where they have the word Amazon along with the arrow that's kind of giving you an idea of forward momentum along with upward momentum. Microsoft, Kodak, all of these are great examples of combination logos. But here's the thing with logos. A logo is meant to help identify who your business, product, or service organization is to your prospective audience or customer. It does not need to identify what you and your business, product, or service organization does or sells. Let's take a step back real quick and take a look at these combination logos. For example, my favorite one is Adidas. It's a clothing company. It's a shoe company. Nothing about their logo says clothing or shoes. Microsoft is another great example. The 4 color blocks don't really give off a software or also computer hardware sort of a feel. McDonald's is another great example. It really is just a stylized M for the word McDonald's. Now, Burger King, they do kind of sort of take it into more of a literal aspect in that the logo type is contained within shapes that make it look like a burger. So Burger King. So, like I was saying, not all logos need to show exactly what it is that you do. They just need to make it so that you and your business can stand out amongst the crowd. And the truth is, there is no real set in stone rule about logos. I'm sure, hundreds of people probably have hundreds of different opinions when it comes to logos and branding. But let's talk about the fonts in your brand real quick. The fonts in a logo, if you think of it this way, if the words that are in your messages that you're sending out there, then the font is the voice and tone used to deliver that message. A different font can completely change the delivery of the exact same message. So what voice or tone does the font you use in your branding convey? I'm going to give you guys one of my favorite examples of how the same message can be construed two completely polar opposite ways just by changing the font. So the first one is, I will always find you. The font that is used here is very open, it's round, it's delicate, it's approachable. It's something that you would expect, a loved one to leave, a note for their significant other or something along those lines. Now, that exact same message in a completely different font takes on an entirely different meaning. I don't know about you guys, but I would personally rather find the one on the left on my door when I leave for work in the morning, as opposed to the one on the right. The one on the right means I did something wrong and I'm going to be in big trouble. There's a lot of fonts in the world. There's over 700,000 fonts on whatfontis.com alone. This is only one website in the multitude of font-based websites. So really, the choices are all almost infinite as to what voice your brand can use to spread your message. So what about color? Color in your branding is pretty important. It's important to consider the psychology of color when you're incorporating color into your branding. Colors go beyond just your logo. Colors apply to the packaging, the documentation, your advertising. And in the case of a physical storefront or a brick and mortar location, color is used as an environmental decoration. Different colors can have different meanings or elicit different emotions from your audience. Colors and logo, let's kind of go down the spectrum here, the good old Roy G. Biv minus the indigo. So red can portray power, but it can also be seen as angry, passionate, but it's also the universal sign for danger or a warning. It can be seen as fearless, but it can also be seen as defiant. So you have to be very careful with how you use all of these colors. Strong versus aggressive. Red can be excited, or it could mean pain. Orange is another good one. It can mean courage, but it could also mean something is deprived or lacking. Orange, one of my favorite combinations is orange and gray. It's very sporty, it's very confident. But the incorrect usage can make the design look like it's frustrating. Orange is a warm color, but it can also kind of be seen as somewhat frivolous and not very serious. I'll kind of just go through these a little bit faster so you guys can kind of see how the same color can be perceived in a multitude of different ways. Yellow is fantastic. You'll notice that a lot of food chains use reds and yellows. Those colors have been shown to help increase a person's appetite. Green is the color of youth, the color of growth and vibrancy. But at the same time, a lot of the idioms that we use pertain not only to the verbiage, but the actual abstract version of color itself. So, if something is green, it can be seen as moldy or disgusting. If a person is jealous, you can say that they are green with envy. Whether we think about it or not, those idioms kind of ring true when it comes to color psychology. So the use of green can mean any one of these things, good or bad. The same is true with blue. Blue is very much a colder color, but when used properly, it can definitely impart a sense of trustworthiness or loyalty. One of my favorite examples, if you take a look at a, a bunch of different branding packages for attorneys, a lot of them will use a dark navy or a dark blue because it has a very solid, trustworthy connotation to it. Purple, one of my favorite colors, is seen as both wise but standoffish, luxurious, but if it's not used properly, it can be seen as decadent. Now, one of the reasons, and I love this story, that purple is seen as the color of wealth and luxury, is because in the medieval times, purple was one of the most difficult pigments to create. Now, I don't know the exact science of what they needed to create it. If I thought I heard somewhere that it was only created through the use of grinding up specific insects, a specific kind of beetle, to get the purple dye that could be used for garments. So it was not something that was easily attainable, and so it was really reserved for royalty, for kings, queens, and those of royal heritage were the only ones who could afford to have it. So that connotation kind of continued and passed down through the ages, even though here in 2021 you can go to, you know, Walgreens or Walmart and you can pick up a box of crayons that has several versions of purple in it. So a little fun fact about purple. So we've got logos, we've got fonts, and you've got your colors. So what do you do with them? Well, when you put it all together, it's all about developing a branding package. Um, what you want to do is you want to put all of these into a business card so that your business card reflects who you are. Now, not only when someone you hand someone a business card, not only are they looking at your logo, your colors, your fonts, they're also going to be examining the business card itself, the texture, the feel. Is it shiny? Is it not? Does it have round corners? All of these things are noticed, whether we um, notice these things consciously or not. We do tend to play with them and see these things. The same is true with envelopes. Um, Letterhead. Now, and nowadays, letterhead is starting to fall out of fashion to a certain amount. Um, but it's still there for a lot of businesses. What more people are starting to do is they're starting to brand giveaway items such as pens and notepads. Notepads have really taken over where the letterhead was. um, Uniforms. I could talk to you all day about uniforms, being from Big Frog, but it's important to make sure that your uniforms are brand compliant and present a cohesive message as the rest of your branding. And there's so much more. Like what else? Well, there's the products that you sell. You should be able to look at it and know that the product is XYZ company. Apple is a perfect example. They revolutionized industrial design with the creation of the iPhone and the iPad or iPod. Um, and then next thing you know, everybody started copying. Your packaging, people should be able to tell right away, who that package is from. If you look at Amazon boxes, they are perfectly branded. They don't spend any extra money on the cardboard as far as coloring it. They just have their logos on the side. So anybody and everybody can see that, oh, that's a package from Amazon, which, in this day and age, both a good and a bad thing if you leave your package out front for too long. Services, this is something that kind of goes back to how you take care of your customers. This is a very customer service centered portion where people come to expect a certain amount of service. Like I said, I'm very proud of the fact that we have over 100 5-star reviews on Google. It's because we try to give each and every one of our customers the same level of attention, whether they're buying one t-shirt or they're buying 500. Environmental design, this is huge. If you think of some of the big boys, like my favorites are McDonald's. If you go into a McDonald's here in Omaha, or if you go into a McDonald's in Rhode Island or in California, every single one of them is going to look exactly the same. They use the exact same color of paint on the walls. All of the counters are the same colors. Some of them are, going through updating phases. So they might be getting those new fancy touchscreen ordering systems. But For the most part, they all have a uniform look and feel. That is to help emphasize the brand. That's to help make people comfortable and to know that if I go into McDonald's A versus McDonald's B, I know what to expect. Music, yeah. Not a lot of businesses have music anymore. But you go to some places and they do have something playing this in the speakers, and people get kind of accustomed, and that helps set the tone. Uh, all of these pieces can be considered marketing materials, and they're all vital to branding. Traditional media, such as flyers, print ads, radio ads, they used to be the initial interaction that customers have with a brand, with your business. Um, they are still important, but have become secondary to what I call new media. So, what is new media? Well, let's take a look at a few facts concerning some of the old media. Newspaper readership is at its lowest that it's been since 1940. In 2020 alone, more than 300 newspapers had to close down. Print and digital ad revenues saw double-digit decreases in 2020. And 20% of news readers pay to access online editions of their favorite newspapers. The Wall Street Journal, as a matter of fact, had the highest circulation of all papers in 2020. And if you were to ask 100 people, only three of them, three US adults, would cite print newspapers as their primary information source. Now, print is not dead. I'll be the first one to tell you that. It's not dead. There's still something about holding a flyer, holding a newspaper, holding a magazine that's tangible. You don't need to worry about, the battery running out on it or anything like that. It's always there, and you can refer back to them at any time. But 200 plus, 200 what? That's how many streaming services are available today, over 200. So what does that mean? That means that items like TV ads, they're losing their prominence in advertising nowadays. 2 million plus. That's the number of podcasts as of April 2021. Not as many people are listening to the radio as they used to. Everyone nowadays, a long time ago, everybody was excited switching to Sirius XM or other paid radio services, and those are paid so they don't have to do as much advertising. With those podcasts, there are over 48 million episodes, individual episodes to different podcasts as of April 2021. That's a lot. That's a lot of ear time that is being pumped directly into people's heads, because you see people wearing earbuds all the time. There's a good chance some of them are listening to podcasts nowadays. Over half of the US population has listened to podcasts, or I don't want to say admitted to. I'll be honest, I listen to several podcasts. So really, there's a lot of new media, such as streaming services and podcasts, to take into consideration. 72% of the public uses some type of social media. That can be any number of social media platforms. 2.6 billion. That is the number of Facebook users worldwide. That's billion with a B. I had to use billion written out because I didn't have enough room for all the zeros associated with billion. It's a fantastic opportunity for companies who are worldwide. 67% of people have made a purchase after seeing an advertisement on social media. That is Facebook ads, Twitter ads, YouTube ads. Somebody sees one of those. If you make it catchy enough, people are going to remember it, and people are going to buy the things that they remember. So the main thing I want to impart is you want to go where your customers are. With social media being so prevalent in today's market, there's a really good chance that your audience, regardless of what you do, what business you are, what service, what product you sell, your audience is probably on one or more of these social media networks. If your target market's on there already, they are probably talking about you right now, whether you're on there or not. It's a great opportunity for you to set the tone online as you would with traditional media. The great thing about social media is that you are able to craft your message the way you want. Um, Now, there's an old adage that says never build on someone else's land or never build on rented land. Yes, Facebook, Twitter, all of these platforms are someone else's, and they do have their own rules to operate within and to make sure that you follow. Um, that being said, though, you still have a lot of room to be yourself and to make yourself, your company, your business, your product or service stand out on any one of these platforms. Social media, though, is not just a one way communication channel. That is where it differs vastly from the previous old media that we had, radio, television, print advertising. All of those are one way. That is just you shotgunning your message out into the cosmos for people to see. The difference with social media is that people are now able to interact with a brand. Uh, what's great about this is customer service can be done through social media. It's a great opportunity for your customers to reach out to you. And I don't want to say it's a great opportunity for them to air out their grievances with you, but it is. More importantly, other people will see this, but you shouldn't be afraid of that. The important thing is for other people to see that not only did someone reach out with a problem, you reached back out with a solution. Even if it's something as simple as, um, hey, we're sorry that you had such a bad experience at XYZ company. We would love to take this conversation offline. Can we send you a direct message, or please give us a call, or please send us an email at xyz.com? Any one of those interactions that you post to the public for other people to see will show other people that you take pride in what you do and that your brand is listening to the customers. And I know what you're thinking. It sounds like a lot of work. Believe me, it is. I've been doing this for a while now, and it seems like there's always something new to learn. So then why do it? Well, one of the first things that I've been trying to instill is brand recognition. You want your customers to know who you are. What you put out there helps begin the process. You want the customer who likes you to keep coming back, right? The last thing you want to do is have customers who are a one-time purchase. You want them to have good feelings about you, working with your company, and you want them to keep coming back. You want them to keep coming back with their friends, with their family. Acquiring a new customer can cost 5 times more than retaining an existing customer. Increasing the customer retention by only 5% can increase profits from 25 to 95%. The success rate of selling to a customer you already have is 60 to 70%, while the success rate of selling to a new customer is only between 5 and 20%. Let's talk about that 5% customer retention real quick. Let's say you sell a $100 item. Uh, by being able to retain 5% more customers, that $100 sale could become a $125 sale or a $195 sale through add-ons or additional services or just repeat business. It's pretty fantastic. Continue with brand recognition. You want the customer to know what to expect when they work with you or when they buy your product. Once again, let's talk about McDonald's. Everybody knows what to expect when they walk into a McDonald's. They get the same meat from the same places. They have their onions on the Big Mac cut the exact same way everywhere. The secret recipe for their Big Mac sauce is the same everywhere you go. So anywhere you go, you know exactly what to expect from McDonald's, Burger King, Adidas, Starbucks. Brand recognition allows your customers to connect with a brand. Now, what do you mean by connect? You might be asking. Well, people connect with a brand emotionally, primarily through the values that you demonstrate to your customers. They can connect with your brand intellectually. That is through the copy or the words that you use. When you're speaking to your customers, what are the words you're using? Are they sophisticated or are they a bit more simple, a bit more pedestrian? Um, One of the things I like to do with businesses is I like to tell them to create a customer avatar. Think of a person that you want to shop at your business. Really flesh them out. Is it give them a name. Is it a man or a woman? How old are they? Are they married? Did they go to school? What is their highest level of education? What kind of a job do they do? Where do they like to go to relax? Any one of these things that you can really flesh out for your customers will help you craft the message that you put out into the world much better. Philosophically, what are the messages that you're putting out there, and what are the actions that you are following through with? If they're in cohesion, your customers are going to see this and they're going to want to work with you more. Unless, of course, the message you're putting out there is negative and your actions are also negative, then that's just going to scare everybody away. So here's a word, combination of words you may have heard: brand equity. What is brand equity? Brand equity is having, to put it simply, is having your name everywhere. More branded pieces increases the perceived value of a brand. Take a look at some of the higher branded items with a high perceived value. One of my favorites to talk about is Tiffany's. Tiffany's is a high-end luxury item, and they have a ton of weird things. Some things you would never possibly think of. I saw on their website, because I didn't believe it. I saw it come through on my social media. They sell a gold-plated paperclip, just a regular paperclip that you can buy, at Staples or Office Max or, Office Depot anymore nowadays. But it's gold plated and it's well over $100, if I'm not mistaken. Available only at Tiffany's. Things like that are exclusive to your brand really draw people in. Recognized brands attract more people. It's the difference between going to a store to purchase an Apple product versus a XYZ product. Um, with these more recognized brands, that not only attracts consumers, like I was just saying, but it also is going to attract other businesses. Other businesses are more in line to do business with you if they have seen your brand more and more, if they've seen your name on other things. Employees as well. People want to work for companies that they recognize. People are always a little cautious when it comes to brand new businesses, startups, because you never know what they're going to be about, how long they're going to go. The longer your business has been in business, the more people have seen your brand, the more trust they have, and the longer they expect the brand to be around. And like I said, well-branded brands are considered to be more trustworthy until they're not. So what does that mean? Well, customer complaints. For every complaint that you hear, there are 26 unhappy customers that have remained silent. That's a pretty big number. One of my favorite things has always been, what the sayings has always been that if you make a person happy, they're going to tell 3 friends. Well, if you make a person unhappy, they're going to tell everybody who's going to listen. We'll go back to that here. So with the new media that I've been talking about, that blows open a whole new set of doors that businesses need to worry about. Maybe not worry about, but be mindful of, would probably be a better way of putting it. It used to be that you would actually physically have to talk to somebody and tell them, oh, I had a great experience at XYZ company. You should check them out. Nowadays, people can hop on their phones and put that exact same message and shotgun that to a ton of people on their friends list. Now, I'm sure, most of us have social media, like the previous slide said. How many friends do we have on there that we really don't have very much interaction with? As opposed to, I don't want to say the old days, but the old days when, you actually had physical interactions to call somebody your friend. Once again, that positive message is getting in front of a lot more people on social media, but at the same time, any negative messages are getting seen just as much. So what can you do about it? The first thing you want to do is develop a brand strategy. It starts with an identity. So you want to know who your business, your product, your service is and or want to become. And don't be afraid to revisit it from time to time. Businesses, brands, services, they grow with time. They're very much a living, breathing organism, in my personal opinion. If you take a look at businesses like Coca-Cola, for example, They branched off from doing just Coke to other products, including water. Um, Brand guidelines. This is huge. Brand guidelines is a document that shows approved logos, fonts, colors. It can discuss the tone of your messages. It can go into in depth as much as whether or not you use contractions when you are putting your messages out there. It not only outlines what your brand should do, but also just as importantly, or possibly even more importantly, what a brand should not do. It goes over colors that should not be used. It'll go over images, the way images should not be treated. One of my favorite things or least favorite things is when we get a brand and they just tell us to stretch their logo. Most branding guidelines, that is going to be one of the cardinal sins, is to stretch or pinch or squeeze a logo and deform it. If people see a logo, one way on one section or one product and stretched out, and colors are inverted on another, the logos are going to look disjointed, and that's going to hurt the brand equity, and it's going to hurt the trustworthiness. It's going to make that other product, which could still be from XYZ company, it's going to make it look like it's a bootleg or um, some other kind of service that's trying to piggyback onto the known brand. Make good choices. This is very important. With every decision you make for your brand, you want to make sure that it's in line with your brand identity. If you're looking to do any sort of advertising, go back and look at your brand identity and ask yourself, is this what my brand would want? Is this what I like to do is I like to tell people when they're working on their brand start off or doing a rebranding is pretend that your brand was a person. If your brand was a person, what would they be like? Are they male or female? Are they young or old? Do they go to college? Really try and what's the word I'm looking for? Really try and make a person out of your brand and try and make decisions that person would make. This one's a hard one. You have to stick to these decisions. You want to refer back to those good choices you make and keep making those good ones that have worked out favorably for you, and take a look at the ones that didn't and look for other options in the future. Listen. You need to listen to your customers, but also you need to listen to your competition. Chances are there are other businesses out there doing the same thing or selling a very similar product as you. Take a look at them. See what they're doing. See what they're doing right. More importantly, see what they're doing wrong. You want to make sure that you are not making the same mistakes that these other services, products, and businesses are doing. It's a great opportunity for you to learn from their mistakes so that you don't have to make the same costly mistakes. Lastly, don't fall behind. Like I said, brands are living, breathing organisms. They grow, they evolve, they change. Don't be afraid to try new things and keep the things that work and get rid of the things that don't. Uh, Tons of brands throughout the years have evolved over time. Apple Computer, one of my favorite brands. If you look just at the logo itself, the evolution of the logo, it started off with a very scripty kind of font and a very stylized illustration of Sir Isaac Newton sitting under a tree holding an apple. From there, it kind of evolved and it grew into the colorful rainbow apple of the 80s. After that, it entered what I like to call the sort of jelly bean phase. That's when they had the colorful iMacs, the all-in-one computers. They were very revolutionary in that everything was all in one piece. You didn't have to have a monitor and a computer all separate, and it was very bubblegummy. And so their logo at the time reflected that. After that, they moved on to the kind of shiny silver metallic um, look of their logo. And if I'm not mistaken, that's kind of where they are today. Their logo has very much evolved and grown. The brand itself has grown. They started off with just computers. They moved on to multimedia devices, the iPod. They started doing cell phones with the iPhone, revolutionized that industry. And as I understand it, they have recently applied for patents for an automobile. So they are very much diversifying, evolving, and growing. Your business should not be afraid to do the same. So, yeah. So, like I said, branding is a lot more than just a logo. The logo is very much the start of a brand, but there are so many more things that go into it um, when it comes to looking at a brand in whole. Thank you. So let's go ahead and open this up for some Q&A. I see Alexandra asked a question here. What was the name of the site where they can help you tell what things are wrong with your branding? There's no real one website that I can recommend. Most of this comes from, like I said, I have 20 plus years experience in graphic design. I've been doing marketing for the last 10 plus years. Um, I used to do freelance. I don't really do it anymore, where I would actually help businesses in branding or in rebranding themselves and their services. So I've taken kind of all of that span of knowledge and kind of put it all together. Let's see. Harvin wants me to go to slide 37. Sure. Let me see if there's a quick and easy way here. Yeah. So brand recognition. There you go. Slide 37. Let's see. In the chat, we've got a couple of things here. Larry was saying fish. It's because it had to be dyed twice, making it more expensive and reserved for the rich. Yes, this is going back to the color purple, why the color purple has maintained a sense of luxury and authority. You know, if you take a look at, for example, one of my what I think is one of the greatest uses of the color purple, Crown Royal. By the name itself, you know, royalty, crown, you know, it paints a picture of prestige. And the bottles of alcohol themselves are sold in a purple velvet bag. Uh, it's a great instance of a brand really digging down deep, going beyond that first layer surface and executing their brand amazingly. Trish asks, how important are trademarks for logos? Um, Trademarks are definitely important, but you do not need to necessarily register your trademark, is my understanding. Now, I am not a trademark attorney. I very much highly recommend that you speak to a trademark attorney if you have any questions about this. But as I understand it, you do not need to actually register a trademark. You can through the use of an attorney, or you can also do it online yourself, as I understand it. Um, there are great websites to register your trademark online. And the importance of registering comes with protecting your brand, being able to say to, you know, if you find somebody else who is mimicking your look, your logo, you're able to show that on this date, such and such date, I have a registered trademark with the US trademark department that shows that this is my trademark. You are infringing upon it. You need to stop it, or you need to pay for damages. Um, that is going to be huge. Now, it used to be a lot more important because it was more difficult to prove, once again, when you started doing business. With the advent of technology, you're able to go through and go back to, say, a blog post or a website when you first started selling your product, your service, or when you first started doing business. Um, you're able to show when you started doing that just by the paper trail that gets left behind on the internet. Um, Having a registered trademark with the US government is just extra added firepower for you to be able to say, you are in the wrong. This is my business. You need to stop. Great question, by the way. Laura asks, how can you get your team to follow branding guidelines? That's a great question. I love branding guidelines. I'm a bit of a brand geek myself. Um, Really, you need to have your team understand that the branding guidelines are there to make sure that your brand, or whenever, for example, when I'm doing something for a brand at my business, I use their brand guidelines to ensure that I am helping that company, that business organization be presented in the best possible light. Um, the colors are specific to what they want so that that brand continuity, consistency is there. Um, every team is different. Every person is different. Some people see the value, others do not. It's a matter of trying to find a way to get it to click with them. Um, yeah, so there is no real one way of doing it, but kind of using some of the examples I gave you, like if you take a person's brand and you squish the logo or you stretch the logo, it's not going to look right. And that's the whole purpose of branding guidelines, is to make sure that everything that's being presented is correct so that it's easily notifiable or identifiable. Thank you. Were there any other questions? Oh, Kevin Thompson in chat said Starbucks is the master at environmental design. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The standalone shops, although it's been a long time since I've been to one, yeah, they always had music going. They really set the mood um, for their environment. So yeah, they're a fantastic example of mastering the environmental design. And I can guarantee you, Starbucks, they spend a lot of money determining what is an ideal song or good music to play that was going to keep people in the shop longer, buying more of their product, but at the same time not loitering, and having a good rotation of people coming in, coming out, uh, to maintain profitability for per hour. So yeah, fantastic example. Thank you, Kevin. Were there any other questions? All right. So I do believe that will conclude the webinar. Thank you all so much for attending. If you are here in the Omaha area, please do not hesitate to swing by. I'm going to take this back to the Big Frog slide here, so I can kind of end on that note. If anybody cares to swing by the store and say hello, I'd love to hear from you, and let me know what you guys thought of the webinar. So I'm sorry, I forgot the name of my panelist here at DoSpace, who
But you
was
are all good.
awesome.
Well, thank you, AJ. A big thank you from everyone. This was incredibly, incredibly informative. I felt like I was back in my marketing classes. So really, this is some thorough stuff. So y'all were in for a treat.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Of course. And with that, we are going to end. Thank you, everyone, for attending. If you would like, this webinar will be up on our YouTube page next week, so you are able to come back for all this information as much as you want it. Thank you again to AJ for hosting, and we will see you all later.